Caseus. Ashes of the Order. Chapter 2. Keep your guard up. Sarisu is only effective when your mind is focused. Sweat dripped from Liara's forehead as she defended against the onslaught of her master's attacks. With a swift flurry of strikes, Caseus caught her off guard and swung at her legs. In the nick of time, Liara jumped backwards.
Take it easy!
No breaks, Liara. Caseus pushed the offensive and struck at her blade with heavy blows, sending vibrations through her wrists. With one final strike, he knocked her saber from her hand and sent it tumbling off to the side. As she reached out to call her weapon back, she saw it swiftly pulled into the waiting hand of her master, who handed it back to her. We go again.
Caseus, I'm tired. We've been at this for hours.
Liara, you have to be prepared for whatever comes your way. If we happen upon another Inquisitor, they're not going to take it easy on you. They aren't going to give you time to rest. When I feel you've made significant progress today, then we can call it quits. Until then, we go again. Liara sighed and dabbed her face with a cloth before taking her weapon back and running through the duel again. For the past 2 days, Caseus had been insistent on doubling down on her saber training. She knew it would be tough, but she still found herself ill-prepared for just how difficult it was going to be. Hours passed, and Liara continued to come up short in their sparring. Finally, she physically couldn't continue anymore, as Caseus shut off his saber and sighed, looking out at the dense jungles. He seemed disappointed. Above anything else, Liara hated disappointing her master.
Caseus, Master, I'm sorry. I really am doing the best I can.
Caseus continued to gaze out at the endless sea of trees. I know you are. Your spirit is willing, but you're hitting a roadblock. I had the same problem years ago when I was training under Dravok.
How did you get past it?
Caseus closed his eyes and turned to her. Dravok was a cruel teacher. During training, he would beat me, berate me, break me down. He wanted me to feed off of my anger for power. I did. As strong as I became in those moments of rage, I lost control. And my mind was driven to a singular purpose: vengeance. In the end, it didn't help. In fact, it made things worse. Caseus walked over to Liara and looked her in the eyes. Dravok's training is not something I will ever put you through. Anger, aggression, pain. Nothing good will come of you drawing your power from these.
So how can I push through this wall I'm stuck against?
Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe I need to rethink my teachings. Whatever the reason, though, I want you to remember, there are other sources of strength besides anger and hate. You have a good heart, Liara. Just like my friend Corbin. His strength came from a desire to help those who couldn't help themselves. That was his drive. His source of inner strength. You need to find your source of strength. What drives you? Liara thought it over. She had so many things that drove her to continue her training and push forward. Narrowing it down to only one thing was nearly impossible.
I don't know. Where do you get your strength?
Caseus smiled. For years, what gave me the strength was Sarah. The love that I had for her. Just thinking about her helped me overcome almost anything. What gives me that strength now is you. Seeing you grow and learn. Taking what I teach you and putting it to use. I never thought I would have an apprentice. My master certainly did. One of the last conversations I had with her, she suggested that I apply to train one. Now I have you. You push me to be the best example I can be. That's where I draw my strength from. Liara smiled. It was humbling to hear how much she meant to him. Why don't you head inside? We'll pick up again in the morning." Liara nodded and went to the ramp of the ship, but stopped and turned back.
For what it's worth, I think you're a great teacher.
Liara went inside as Caseus smiled and looked at the sky above. "Did you hear that, Master?" After sunset, Liara sat in her bed and drifted off to sleep as Caseus and Pip sat in the cockpit. Pip was tinkering with a few items as Caseus looked through Master Takai's book.
"So, how's her training coming along?"
"We've hit a little snag in her progress, but I know she's going to push through." "What are you working on?"
"I'll show you."
Pip held up a rusty wrench that had something taped onto it. "What's that?"
"I call it the Shockmaster 7000.
"The what?"
Observe."
Switching on a little device at the top of the wrench, Pip held it upwards like a mighty warrior wielding a sword. The little attachment began to spark with a small electric current.
"You Jedi have your lightsabers. I figure I need a weapon too. As soon as danger strikes, hey-ya! Hey-ya! Whoosh!"
As Pip swung his makeshift weapon, the tape snapped, sending the shock attachment flying out of the cockpit and into a wall with a loud clatter.
Well, it's a prototype."
Caseus shook his head as Pip went to retrieve the device and looked back through Master Takai's book. As he did, he noticed something. There was another page he had failed to notice, folded tightly between two others. Caseus was certain he'd read the book cover to cover, examined every inch of it. Clearly, he was wrong. Unfolding the page, he saw a detailed diagram for a saber technique involving two individuals. It looked to have been drawn up by Master Takai herself. It was so simple, and yet the complexities of such a technique were surprising. In his master's handwriting, he saw a note from her. "Nearly sliced off Dravok's ear attempting this. We'll have to hold off until I'm ready to try again." Caseus ran his fingertips across the paper as he carefully examined the technique. The move in question required two Jedi. Both Jedi were to throw their sabers outwards, keeping them at a certain distance, before rotating the blades and sending them in a circular motion around both combatants, in essence, creating a nearly impenetrable barrier around them. From what he could see, it could be used both offensively and defensively. As he stroked his beard, he thought to himself, if he and Liara could learn this technique, it could be an invaluable trump card if they ran into trouble. "Hey, Pip, keep an eye on things in here. I'll be outside."
"Can do, Captain."
Caseus stepped off the ramp of the ship under the starry night sky. Switching on his saber, he took a deep breath before levitating the saber in the air in front of him, carefully starting to spin it. This was difficult enough. Then, as the blade continued to spin, Caseus began to rotate it slowly around his body in a large circle. He kept it going for a short minute before calling it back to his hand. This was a complex technique. If he was going to teach it to Liara, he had to be sure she was fully prepared.
Captain, you might want to get in here."
Caseus put his saber away and ran to Pip, who was adjusting dials and knobs on the comm system. "What is it?"
"It sounds like a distress signal."
"Where's it coming from?"
"Looks like Calula."
"Try switching frequencies and see if you can widen the range." Caseus listened closely as the staticky transmission slowly became clearer. "Can anyone hear us? Matt and I were attacked by pirates. The ship was damaged. Our captain has been killed. Help now, please. Making our way to Dolga Canyon. Coordinates 35.2762 north, 738993 west. Hurry, anyone!" Caseus looked at the comm system and to the cockpit.
"What are we going to do?"
"We're going to help them."
Caseus turned and saw Liara listening in.
"Liara, you said the opportunity to help would present itself. Now it's here. Master, this is a sign. These people need help, and we have to help them."
Caseus thought it over and looked back to Liara. "Then we'll help. Pip, start the engines and punch in those coordinates."
"Roger that. The crew of the mighty Nebulous, off to save the day.
The Nebulous exited the atmosphere and made its way towards Calula. It didn't take long. Both Shalgana and Calula resided in the same sector. Soon, they approached the mountainous planet and quickly made their way to the surface and the coordinates they were given, and looked out the viewport at the desolate canyon.
Look!
Liara pointed to a beat-up, old-looking outer rim shuttle surrounding a downed gray cargo transport. Those must be the pirates. Pip, take us down. Pip lowered the ship to the surface as Caseus took a deep breath and put his cloak on, keeping his face hidden. Let's go. Rushing off the ramp, they ran over to the canyon and heard blaster fire and saw the pirates firing at the trapped victims inside of the cargo freighter. Quickly, Caseus and Liara ignited their lightsabers and ran forward. The pirates noticed and began to curse in their native tongues before firing at the two of them. Every shot was deflected by either Caseus or his apprentice. Liara pushed forward with Caseus, and as they sliced their way through each of them, soon the pirates had been cleared out. And Caseus put his weapon away. Hello? Is anyone there? It's okay, you can come out. You're safe. The door to the cargo freighter opened. Caseus' eyes widened as 4 Imperial stormtroopers stepped off the ship. One spotted Liara's lightsaber and aimed his blaster. Jedi! Caseus quickly removed his weapon and kept his guard up as the troopers aimed their weapons. Stand down! Now!